questions on review of the game last week. I'm going to take the approach that I told our team to take the approach, which was to move on as quick as we can. Sunday we came in and watched tape and moved on to Liberty real quick. So it's really the only thing that's going on in our world right now. Yet there's a lot of things that happened that we need to improve on. There's always going to be a lot between game 1 and game 2. So this gives us a great opportunity to be able to get back out to work today and work on a lot of the things that we need to work on to be able to be the team that we feel like we can be at some point this season. So Liberty will be a challenge for us. They're a good team. There's it happens every year, as you all know. FCS teams are if you take them lightly and don't respect your opponent, then it'll come back to get you. It happens a lot of times. It got to a point where I think it might happen every week. Seems like so. They last year 9-5 really got on a run towards the end of the year. I think they won 7 out of their last 9 or something like that. So they got everybody coming back on offense. Their quarterback, the Woodruff kid, has been there for a long time. Big kid, quick release, ball comes out fast. All-American receiver, the Peterson kid, number 13, is a guy that has made a ton of plays for him. Experienced offensive line, and got 2 running backs that they split time with last year, I think because of an injury. To the point to where they're not just spread it out and throw it all over the place outfit. They're going to be multiple with what they do. Our defense is preparing for that and probably excited about facing a semi-pro style, normal type of offense as opposed to what they've been prepping for here for the last few weeks. So, it'd be good to see how they handle that. Defensively, they lost a lot of guys from what they played with last year. They were a pretty veteran group on defense last year and was extremely solid. I'm glad some of those guys they were playing with last year are gone. So, looking at what they did last week, they played a lot of people. I mean, even with a lot of new people, some new guys, new starters, new freshmen in the lineup, they play a lot of people. not quite as multiple as they were last year, based on inexperience. You never know when that will change. Their front is going to give us problems. They got ends that can rush. 52 has got around 20 sacks in his career, so he can get to the quarterback. Get to test our tackles more so than what was tested last week. Pretty anxious to see that. The special teams, the thing that stands out is we're going to have a battle of 2 of the better kickers in the country. I was pleased with how Josh responded last week. Being our special teams player of the week, being perfect on extra points. The Lunsford kid that they have is a first-team All-American. The dude made a 60-yarder last year. That's pretty special. So he's got pro potential. And when they're going to be in range once you cross midfield. So that's something to keep your eye on as well. So with that said, we'll take some questions. We're obviously back to work. I thought last week's game environment was awesome. Guys were fired up. Mountaineer Field was pretty energetic, and night games are special, as we all know. This will be a little different, being a 3 o'clock game. We'll see how our guys respond playing in the heat of the day. Hopefully it's 95 degrees out there like it's going to be today, and we'll see how we handle that type of a situation. I'm sure we will handle it this way. Take some questions.
I guess, Coach, just how is Jared Barber looking physically right now, and how's the health of the team overall after that first game?
We came out of it really well. We came out of it good. Playing a team like that, you're nervous about the chop blocks and the being on the ground as much as we were potentially off the ground. But we're in good shape.
Coach, I know when you were at Oklahoma State, Coach Gill was
had a bunch of success. Followed him when he was at Buffalo. You know, the Nebraska thing, I bumped into those guys a lot, played against them, and then when as the head coach being at Buffalo, I remember him being pretty good, getting that program turned around. So I've been over at Liberty for going on his 4th year now. Had a winning record every year. That's not surprising. He's been in the game for a long, long time, and is adapting from being a great player to a great coach.
Danny, you mentioned you wanted to see improvement week 1, week 2. Specifically where?
Blocking and tackling, especially special teams. It's where they're most exposed. It's where we have a lot of our backups and where there's a lot of space. So I thought our coverage units were good last week. I thought our blocking was average, but we didn't have as many opportunities. There was, I think, 5 punts, and we had to Peter call, most of them. We didn't make the best of decisions when it came to that, but when you have to do that, the blocks fall off. So you can't see them finish the blocks. So I don't have a lot of information on how we finished blocks in the return game. Only had 1 kickoff return, and that thing was a touchback. So I thought our coverage units were good. Our awareness of where we're at is probably the biggest thing that we need to look at. There's some things that we need to sew up in our PAT field goal team. There was too many leaks on our PAT field goal. Our operation time is so good it didn't affect it. But some of the bodies coming through there are going to be twitchier and faster and longer to where we got to get some of that stuff. Thought we tackled really good on defense. I referenced that after the game. Going back looking at it, it's the best we've tackled since I've been here. So I was pleased with that. Blocking wise, thought we were pretty physical up front, but finishing blocks up front. Thought we blocked decent on the perimeter as well. So just overall, just blocking and tackling. When you look for improvement, that's where you got to start.
The tackle was good. Did you tackle more preseason this year, or did you just have veteran guys?
It's both. Having as much experience on defense, obviously, is irreplaceable. Those guys were motivated, tuned in, locked in, played hard, motivated. I mean, the list goes on and on. Comfortable in the scheme, coached well, blah blah blah. But we did tackle more than I've ever tackled. And it's not even close. And having a lot of depth allows you to do that as well. So we've tackled more in the preseason than I ever have, but I don't want to take away from the way that we tackled with the guys that were doing the tackling, for sure.
Coach, after preparing for so long for the triple option Georgia Southern, is there sort of an extra challenge in now having to go back to facing a more conventional style offense?
No, I don't think so, because we've practiced against each other so much. There's been 600, 800, 900 snaps to where we went against our defense, and what we do offensively is a heck of a lot more similar to Liberty than it is Georgia Southern. So, they pose some pro-style challenges, but with good personnel. They're good up front. They got a great quarterback that can make the throws. They got one great receiver and some quality receivers with some running backs as well. But that's kind of what we do too. We can play a tight end in the back or 2 backs and a couple of receivers and all that. So they get empty and get in a bunch of different sets, and we'll be able to give our defense those things as well.
I know the team you faced wasn't a challenging team for secondary last week, but could you talk a little bit about your secondary, how it worked together in this game, and what it's capable of doing?
Yeah, you take Carl and KJ, who have played almost 3,000 snaps apiece. Those guys have played a lot of ball. We've talked about Dragon, being a talented player who was lost a year ago, and now he's not lost. Darryl Worley was bored out of his mind a week ago because he likes to be challenged and is long and physical and fast and talented. And Chestnut, who's probably the old man of the group. He's the oldest. He's been around here the longest. He's one of my favorite guys on the team just because he cares so much about his teammates and hard worker. Is technically the most sound guy we got. Ricky Rumpf has come a million miles and has been playing really, really, really good. Those guys they're well coached, they're talented, they've got lots of experience, they're motivated. They're a pretty good group, so really proud of where they're at in the development that they've shown.
Jared Barber's a guy who until Saturday hadn't played for about 2 years now. Is he someone who you watched on? Were there any kind of visible signs of rust, or was he pretty close to what he was back in 2013 when he's playing more routine basis?
Yeah, looks like he's stronger, quicker, more physical. That happens to a lot of guys that have knees. If you don't rush them back. If you remember, we could have played Jared probably game 5 last year, and he made the decision that he wanted to redshirt so he could be a fifth-year senior with Nick Kwiatkowski next to him and Shaq Cutaway, Isaiah Bruce, Kyle Rose, all guys that he came in with. Chestnut, those are all guys that he came here with. So he was pretty motivated to do it. So the physical nature of where he's at, you talk about an Iron Man in the weight room for about 14 months. Him and Mike Joseph were, neck and neck for about 14 months. So, he brings a lot to the table. He's smart. That's why we call him Coach Barber. And he's bigger, faster, stronger than he was 2 years ago.
With these young guys that perform well, is the next step stringing them together, putting them back to back, keeping going?
Oh yeah, consistency is one thing. Before we can talk about consistency, we got to talk about just improving. There are so many. What was impressive about those young guys at receiver, I assume is what you're talking about, is they made catches. Those catches weren't easy. It's not like they were running scot-free and just caught it in stride and pranced into the end zone. They were contested catches. So those two guys having contested catches is exciting for me, But by no, I'm sitting there going, Skyler, if your timing with these guys is a little better, and if their technique on the route was a little sharper, then we're talking about uncontested catches to where they can just run into the end zone like we saw last year, as opposed to the timing being off and they catch it and get tackled. So I'm not worried about consistency at this point. I'm worried about consistency with our defense because they're all old and they're all seniors and they're good players and they're well coached and they believe in the system and they're confident. Now we're talking about being consistent every week. It may be another year before we're doing that with the offense. It's still about improving with the offense. It's about timing and it's about improving.
It seems to me, I might be wrong about this, but I think Marvin Gross had 3 tackles on kickoffs. He was a sort of a tweener guy who was a linebacker and a safety. Talk a little bit about him, where he fits.
Well, I'm just happy to be talking about him, to be honest with you. He's been here for 3 years and hasn't done anything. So, he got his chance. He's always been able to run. He just never knew which direction he was going to run. So him getting in there on kickoff, and he was the guy that ran. He was the first one down there every time, But I think he had his eyes closed half the time because he ran down there and didn't know where he was. So that was kind of part of my thing about with the coverage team having awareness of where the ball is and getting off blocks and being able to make a few more tackles. He did that once or twice, but he did look good running down there and look for improvement with him. You know, Al Benton was the same way. Xavier Preston, JT, you know, Jeremy Tyler, and who else was on that thing? We put Big CJ in there one time. You guys saw the 7-footer running down there. That was fun. We'll see him again running down there on Saturday. But that gives those backup guys on defense an opportunity to get out there and play.
Dan, what did you think of your run game?
Thought it was good. I was a little frustrated with it in the first half. But, I mean, Georgia Southern was a pretty good run defense a year ago. They see it a lot and they focus on it, and their whole deal was to press our outside guys and put one more person than we could block in the box. That's what they decided on doing. So, you know, I have him rushing for 4.8 yards. We had about 6 explosive run plays, but none over 20 yards. You know, so it's not like we broke one for 70 yards and averaged 4.8 yards a rush. So, you know, I looked at the stat sheet after the game, and I'm wondering where my pass plays were. Didn't call as many as I thought we needed to, probably, but we were getting enough accomplished in the run game to keep going. And so I was happy with what it was.
Dane, I know you were happy with Wendell, but is consistency the next step for him?
Yeah, yeah, with him it is. He's one of our most dynamic guys out there. I said that, you know, prior to the game. And you know, he had, 6 explosive runs? I mean, so he's an explosive guy. We can use him in, you know, multiple ways. We didn't really have to do a whole lot of that with him this past game, but we can. So we'll keep trying to get him the ball as much as we can.
Danny, you switched up your practice schedule in game week. How'd it work, and what was your...
I liked it. Just trying to get a little bit more work the day before the game. A lot of the NFL guys are going to it, so we decided to give it a try. I've been gearing it that way for about 4 years. You know, get a lot of good work. Tuesday's rusty. You know, we got to get them back in the swing of things. Wednesday's just a huge grind. So what we've done is try to rest and recover a little bit on Thursday, and then kind of rev them back up on Friday. I thought it worked pretty good.
What do you think about Yachty's first game?
I prefer not to talk about it. I did good. He graded out well, but I prefer not to talk about it.
This, I think it's your last FCS you have on the schedule right now. Do you foresee blending them in the future? Or
Got one next year. Youngstown.
Correct, my bad. Yeah, so next year is your last. So it's running down, I guess. But they do beat FBS teams sometimes too, and sometimes they're better than FBS.
Youngstown. Or
No, I mean any FCS.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Is it right to just have a no FCS thing? I mean, can you find the right opportunity, or is it too hard to predict?
I think we should do whatever everybody else in the country is doing. Now we're taking the approach that we're gonna, you know, we're not gonna schedule a ton of them. You know, I don't know if that's appropriate or inappropriate. I know it's one of the lifelines for the FCS opponents is to be able to get a payday. You know, so it's good. I know it's good for Liberty to come over here to collect a check that can keep their program afloat. You know, some of them need it more than others. I don't think Liberty's one that totally needs it. But there's some that there's a lot of them that need it. So it's kind of a shame in that sense. I mean, I got a lot of respect for FCS and Division II and Division III schools. You know, I've made a lot of comments towards that. I think there's a lot of good coaches, good quality coaches out there. I don't know. I think you know, it's about what the fan base wants, and the fan base wants to see a lot of Power 5 scheduled games. We're one of the only teams in the country out there that are scheduling 2 Power 5 schools in the future. If you look at our future schedules, we're scheduling them. You know, so I would just wish that everybody else would do the same thing. If we're scheduling 2 Power 5 schools and a non-Power 5 school, FBS school, then I wish everybody else would too. As opposed to what some of them are doing, which is an FCS school and 2, maybe even 2 FCS schools and then 2 other non-Power 5 schools. You can figure out who I'm talking about. Thank you.